Panu Raju asked Mike Johnson a question in the press conference this morning about this very answer that Donald Trump gave. I don't know anything about this guy. And remember, last week it was Mike Johnson that was very critical of Joe Biden. And Mike Johnson said he didn't know who he was pardoning. That's exactly what Donald Trump just said on 60 Minutes. And Mike Johnson does what he always does, dodge the question. I don't know anything about it. Have a listen to this.
Questions. Manu, you get it first every time. This is not fair.
Last week, you came here to these mics, and you were very critical of Joe Biden's use of the auto pen, his pardons. You said he didn't even know who he was pardoning. But last night on 60 Minutes, President Trump, admitted not knowing he pardoned a crypto billionaire who pleaded guilty to money laundering. Does that also concern you?
I don't know anything about that. I didn't see the interview. You have to ask the president about that. I'm not sure. Yes, ma'am.
Not sure. I don't know anything about that. You'll have to ask the president about that. I didn't see it. He doesn't know anything about that, but he seems to know everything about who Joe Biden pardoned. But when it comes to somebody who Donald Trump pardoned, who actually invested tons of money in his crypto scheme, enriching his family probably billions of dollars, and then all of a sudden gets a magical pardon, all of a sudden Mike Johnson plays dumb, and he doesn't know anything about that. Well, guess what? We have a little mix of Mike Johnson, compliments of Jon Stewart. It seems as though Mike Johnson doesn't know anything when it comes to Donald Trump and all the scandals, Donald Trump and the unlawful activity, Donald Trump and all the hypocrisy put forth by the right, blaming the left. Mike Johnson doesn't know anything about that. Have a listen to this.
How comfortable are you with the president apparently seeking $230 million from the Department of Justice?
I don't know the details about that. I've just read it.
I don't know. I've never seen the Epstein evidence. It wasn't in my lane.
I don't know anything about the meme coin thing. I don't know.
I don't know anything about the dinner. I was a little busy this past week, as you know.
I'm not following all the twists and turns of the Qatar jet. I haven't looked into the details of the RSC budget. There's lots of nuances. That's the first I've heard of that. I don't know anything about it. I have not heard or looked into any of the details of that. I've been a little busy. I haven't seen the specifics of that, and I don't know. I don't know the details. I just saw a headline this morning. I don't know what you're talking about with the children. Look, I'm not going to make any detailed statement on this because I don't know the details. I've been very busy the last 48 hours or so.
That performance in front of the generals, that
I didn't see it.
is so dangerous.
I haven't seen it. I can't comment on it. I've been a little busy today.
That's not my lane. I don't know.
I don't know anything about it yet. I've been really busy, as you probably noticed.
I don't know what Eric was saying because I only heard just a snippet there. I don't know the context.
You just saw it, sir.
I don't know anything about that. I don't know anything. I mean, that's just like, those clips are just the last few months. He's been doing this for a very long time. I think we need to keep playing that and just add it to the repertoire of I don't know anything about it, and just keep doing it. It's going to be like 20 minutes long by the end of Donald Trump's tenure. But this is who Mike Johnson is. He doesn't know. Knows everything about the Hunter Biden laptop, knows everything about Hunter Biden selling paintings, knows everything about the Biden administration, knows everything about what the time of day that every Democrat goes to the bathroom. But when it comes to Donald Trump and all the scandals, which are literally every single day, he doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't see the interview. He doesn't know. And then Mike Johnson goes on, making the claim that he's working hard, that the Republicans and he is working very, very hard in their districts serving constituents. I want you guys to keep in mind that he has kept them home for now nearly 2 months. But here's Mike Johnson in front of a podium today talking about how hard he and all these Republicans are working for their constituents. Have a listen to this.
In these elections, maybe after tomorrow, they'll come to their common senses again and do the right thing. We certainly pray that is true. And Republicans will be on the job every single day, serving our constituents, helping guide them through the chaos that the Democrat shutdown has created, and praying that they do the right thing and stop making the American people suffer because of this nonsense. Thank you.
You're working really hard. We've kept you guys home for 2 months, but we're working really hard. 2-month vacation, but we're working hard for our constituents. You frickin' lying scumbag, you. What a joke. Speaking of losers, can we talk a little bit about Tiny Mike Johnson, please?
Oh, my God.
Tiny Johnson.
His hair's turning gray before our eyes.
So now they're saying, and Mike Johnson's excuse of these new revelations in these emails, which I think are extremely damning, Mike Johnson's now saying the Epstein files are just the shiny object in the room, and it's just a distraction.
Yeah.
He's trying to.
He wishes.
Just like Caroline Levitt, he's trying to make excuse after excuse after excuse. The last thing they want is this vote to go through. So here was Mike Johnson's response earlier today to these emails. Have a listen to this.
A leader, they don't have any identifiable set of policy solutions for the problems facing the American people. Their party continues to hit all-time historic lows in poll after poll after poll, and many of you have reported on that. These are objective facts. They're utterly lost as a party, and everybody can see it. So what are they doing? They see a shiny object, and they latch onto it. Democrats did not say one word about the Epstein files for the entire Biden presidency. They had all the files in the Biden DOJ. They didn't say a word about it. 4 years, not a word. And suddenly now, they somehow convince themselves that the Epstein files will be damaging to President Trump and Republicans in some way that they've imagined. And so they feign outrage.
So, hypothetically speaking, and I'm not saying this is true, because I know that the Maxwell trial was going on during the Biden administration.
That is correct.
And that was sealed.
That's when it was started,
Correct.
in 2018, 2019.
Correct. So you can make that argument, but let's just give Tiny Mike Porn Johnson, the fake Christian, the benefit of the doubt on this one. And listen, I'm not saying he's telling the truth, but for argument's sake, let's just say for the last 4 years, Biden was hiding something, and there were prominent Democrats that were in the Epstein files. It still doesn't change our opinion now. It doesn't change anybody's opinion. If there's Democrats in there, they should be held to account. But you see, Joe Biden wasn't on tape hanging out with, Maxwell and hanging out with Epstein. There are no emails circulating that Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or any of the Bidens were hanging out with Epstein and alleged victims at his house. No, that's all Donald Trump, okay? So your excuse of, why didn't they release it 4 years ago, has no bearing on the conversation right now. Wrong is wrong. If you think it was wrong, and I guess that's what Mike Johnson is saying, I don't even know what he's saying, because Biden, he claims, didn't release it. We shouldn't have to release it? What is the argument being put forth by these MAGA buffoons?
That's like saying you get caught coming out of a bank after you just robbed the bank and you have the money in your hand and they're arresting you, and you say, what about my cousin Johnny? He robbed a bank last week and he didn't get arrested.
Right.
And he was just as guilty as me and nobody arrested him. That makes no sense.
Makes absolutely no sense. And
that's a whataboutism.
Mikey Little Johnson, he probably wants...
He looks bad.
Yeah, well, they're aging.
He looks stressed out.
They're aging by the day. When you have to defend every day, when you have no soul and you have no moral compass and you have to defend a 34-count felon and adjudicated rapist, it probably gets to you a little bit, mentally, physically. Representative Stutzman is another moron. He was on CNN earlier today, another right-wing fool.
Yeah.
Another Trump mushroom gobbler. I think I can say that. And Stutzman claims that Donald Trump has been the most investigated person in the world. And listen to his excuses of why he doesn't think the Epstein files should be released. Listen to this.
Alita Grijalva of Arizona, the Democrat, is sworn in later today, 2 months after her election, by the way. She's expected to be the 218th signature needed to force a vote to release all of the Epstein files. Do you think those files should be released?
Well, again, I think James Comer, the Oversight Committee chair, as well as the others who are responsible for these files, have done a very good job handling them methodically and making sure that the victims are protected, that Epstein, of course, was a monster that we know of, and the fact that these files are being released and information is coming out is good for all of us. I mean, we want transparency in our government, and I trust that James Comer, Congressman Jim Jordan, they are the ones that are truly handling this very well in the House of Representatives. Democrats are doing, their job, of course, as the opposition and making sure that information is out there. But again, I think that, it's interesting that they release those files today on the day that the government shutdown is going to end, and that it's a positive for Republicans that we're going to continue funding the government as we planned on, and that the government's going to be open. SNAP benefits are going to start being released back to the American people that we're truly counting on them over the past month. And because the Democrats weren't able to get those SNAP benefits, and of course a lot of other just problems that we didn't need to have and force on the American people, but that's what the Democrats chose.
And
to another Trump mushroom gobbler, Representative Stutzman, who says that this is just a distraction. The Democrats are doing this because it's just a distraction. Let's forget about all the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, that animal, and Maxwell. Let's forget about the fact that the Trump administration had put her in a Club Med facility and probably going to pardon her. Let's forget about the fact that Trump is calling everybody stupid if they even talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Let's forget about the fact that there was a private meeting today with Donald Trump and some members of his administration with two women who want the Epstein files to go public. That would be Nancy Mace, the disgrace, and Lauren Beetlejuice Boebert. Let's forget about that. Let's forget about all this Epstein cover-up, which is exactly what it is. It's a major cover-up. Let's forget about the fact that Kash Patel wouldn't even answer direct questions under oath if he ever told Pam Bondi that Trump was in the Epstein files, which clearly he did. It's only a distraction.
Let's forget Pam Bondi said it was on my desk.
Yeah.
They said, what about the list? And she said, oh, the list, it's on my desk. I'm getting ready to read it.
But it's
a
a
week
distraction.
later, I don't believe there's a list. How obvious is that? How big of a lie is that?
It's all a distraction.
It is
Leonard.
funny. It's ridiculous.
It's a distraction.
And he mentioned Democrat. The Democrats this and the Democrats that. He never once mentioned the Supreme Court when he's talking about SNAP benefits and people being fed. He never mentioned the Supreme Court holding it up.
It's all a distraction.
He said Dems.
That's what they're saying. It's just a shiny object. It's a distraction. They're calling the Epstein files a distraction where there are so many innocent children that were sodomized, where there were so many innocent children that were sex trafficked, probably from Mar-a-Lago. And yet they have the gall to say this is just a distraction. Democrats have been very clear. They want the Epstein files released. If there are
no one's hiding. They're not hiding.
If there are Democrats in there, they say, so be it. Have you ever heard a Republican talk like that? Have you ever heard a MAGA Republican or a Republican in general say, release the files? We don't care if they're Republicans or Democrats. Very few, if any. Literally, every single Democrat.
I'm a Democrat. I consider myself a common sense Democrat, and I say release the files. And if some prominent Democrats have to fall or go to prison or get indicted, then so be it. They shouldn't have been with underage girls, or as they're calling them on TV, kids, children.
Mm-hmm.
It's illegal in every state. Now the ages vary, but in this state, if you have sex with a girl under 16 years old in this state, it's a felony.
Should talk to Matt Gaetz about that.
Is that even close?
No, it wasn't. And you're right, this is a mandate, but I'll tell you, somebody who doesn't think this is a mandate, let's talk a little bit about Tiny Mike Johnson real quickly. Tiny Mike. So Mike Johnson is downplaying what took place yesterday, and obviously Republicans, this is another example of them not learning anything from what took place last night. And I'm going to get into the weeds a little bit of why this happened last night, at least my personal opinions. But listen to Mike Johnson earlier today downplay the bloodbath that the Republicans
He didn't
faced
say,
last
I didn't
night.
know there was an election. He didn't say that?
Have a listen to this.
I don't think the loss last night was any reflection about Republicans at all. I think people are frustrated and angry, as we are. I am. The president is, and we express that different ways. But look, we look forward. We're looking forward to a great election, running on our record, and we're gonna get all of our incumbents reelected, and we're going to add to the number here. So that's the answer.
He would be in front of a microphone, and he would say that this is not a reflection about Republicans. He cannot believe what he is saying. And he went on and he talked about and downplayed, oh, well, these are just blue states. And let me remind all of you before we play this idiotic clip of Mike Johnson that when you win by 15, 16 points, and the presidential election, which was less than a year ago, Kamala Harris in these blue states won by maybe 5 or 6 points, and the lead tripled for Democrats. For him to downplay this like he is in this clip is unbelievable. Have a listen to this.
There's no surprises. What happened last night was blue states and blue cities voted blue. We all saw that coming. And no one should read too much into last night's election results. Off-year elections are not indicative of what's to come. That's what history teaches us. By the way, it's worthy of note that Zoran Mandami himself only received a little over 1 million votes, 1,036,000 votes. There are 8.3 million residents in New York City. 8.5 million, actually, is the number, I think. So about 12% of the city voted to turn their city over to the communists. We'll see how that works out. The lesson
doesn't believe this. I don't think little Mike Johnson believes this. But I think in this clip alone, he shows the contempt he has for American voters every day with these lies that he spews. And he also claimed just a few weeks ago that 8 million people at No Kings rallies were paid protesters. So obviously,
he's in another reality.
yeah, this nonsense that he is
just
spewing.
literally
is insane.
lives. You could see it on his face. There's a psychosis, and what he said makes no sense. They could have lost, and the Attorney General in Virginia was very close, and he won by 6 points, but it was still up for grabs. So I think Mike Johnson is just doing the usual Mike Johnson work. I'm surprised he didn't say, "Oh, was there an election last night? I don't know. I didn't hear about that. I'll look into it. I'll get back to you on that."
I'm actually surprised he didn't say that. Let me just clearly, before I get to some more clips, let me just quickly give you my opinions on why we saw what took place last night. First of all, there's a lot of people in this country. They want a secure border. They want people in this country coming in this country legal. Here's what they didn't vote for. I believe most of them, not all of them. Most of these people did not vote for ICE agents not identifying themselves across the country with Dr. Phil there with a microphone gleeing at the fact that you're separating families, you're deporting people, not even to their home country, sometimes in very high secure, maximum security prisons, tackling women in front of schools, picking up their kids, tackling grandmothers outside of courtrooms. Most of the American people did not vote. And even for the people out there that say Joe Biden didn't do a good job with the border, they did not vote for this. I'll tell you something else they did not vote for: a government shutdown. They were told by the liar in chief that the war would be over on day one in Ukraine, there would be peace in the Middle East, and they were told inflation would drop all the way down. You see meat prices, you see prices through the roof. They did not vote for a government shutdown. Many of these people, while many of them might be complicit, they did not vote to lose their medical coverage. They did not vote to lose their food stamps. They did not vote to lose their jobs.
Tariffs.
And they did not vote for these crazy tariffs either. But most Americans did not vote for this stuff. And last night was a perfect example of that. You don't go from Kamala Harris winning by 5 or 6 points in these blue states to these races, Democrats winning by 15 points. It is a big part of it. I would agree with some Republicans that are saying this. A big part of it, sure. Part of it is the government shutdown. But some of those other things that I'd mentioned as well. And that is why this is what a real mandate looks like. Now, with that being said, Democrats still need to keep the pedal to the metal, for lack of a better term. Got to make sure the turnout is good in 2026 and 2028. But my personal opinion right now, I know it is very early. My personal opinion right now is that this is the official start. It is the start to the end of MAGA. Now, I'm hopeful that I'm right, but that is my personal opinion. If I didn't feel that way, I wouldn't say it on the air right now. I believe, looking ahead to 2028, if it goes the way I hope it goes, we're going to look back on this night, last night, and say that was the beginning. It started with the government shutdown, and then it started with what took place in these several states last night. I believe this is the beginning.
It was a blue landslide. Let's call it what it was. It was a landslide, and I think more importantly, it was a roadmap. So the Democrats watching, the people in leadership, and Chuck Schumer has been getting beat up online. He's been beaten up on news, and I don't know if the guy's ever going to step aside, but I think he needs to. He doesn't seem to be up to the challenge of leading the Senate anymore.
Do you want to hear, though, Mike Johnson performing verbal fellatio on the President of the United States? I have some of that audio.
We get a little bit of that every day.
Yeah. Here's Mike Johnson saying, I don't know, that Donald Trump has ended like 80 wars. Have a listen to this.
We have put real reforms into the Medicaid program to strengthen it, because we've got people who are ineligible recipients, like illegal aliens and young able-bodied men without dependents, off the program, so that the disabled, the elderly, and young pregnant women can have the resources they need. The president is literally solving wars around the globe. I think we're up to 9. All of that is on one side of the screen. What are the Democrats on the other side of the screen? A government shutdown.
It's amazing to me that Mike Johnson wakes up in the morning every day to put on his Donald Trump knee pads, and he has the most powerful position in Congress, which is, scary.
He's third in succession.
And he uses this position literally as a vehicle to accomplish nothing other than knee pad wearing and performing verbal fellatio on Donald Trump every single day. It's so pathetic. And here's where Mike Johnson talks about Prop 50. And make no mistake about it, Gavin Newsom doesn't even attempt to do this. If the Republicans didn't start doing it and Greg Abbott didn't start talking about it in Texas.
And he didn't just demand redistricting. He went to the commission, the independent commission, and said, because that's what you have to do in California, you have to go through the independent commission in order to redistrict. And he got the people to vote by 2/3. Okay, so I think it was 66 to 35, 34, something like that. And so 2/3 of the people said, yeah, they want to redistrict. So they could pick up 5 seats.
And listen to Mike Johnson talking about California's Prop 50, saying that the Democrats did this because they're desperate. Have a listen to this.
I don't have anything to do with redistricting. The Speaker of the House, people think are in charge of everything. This is a state-by-state battle. We do believe at the end of the day that we will net more seats for the Republican Party than the Democrat Party. I mean, everybody, that's the analysis. I'll make a comment about the tragedy in California last night. What California did is very, very different, as you all know, by comparison to what a state like Texas did. Texas was following the federal and state constitution, following their state law and redistricting. California was not. They had to trample over their own state law, over their own independent redistricting commission that they had all put into place. It was a desperation, a sign of desperation on the Democrat Party. It was a game to try to rig the election, as if you could gerrymander California anymore. They managed to do it. I mean, there's like 53 representatives from California. We had 9. They want us to have 3. I mean, it's just a blatant example of Gavin Newsom's immoral leadership and the fact that they will do anything to try to rig the system to win.
Grade A whining.
Immoral leadership. You guys have Donald Trump as the leader of the Republican Party, who had a hush money payment to Stormy Daniels for $130,000 after he raw dogged her. And this happened weeks before the presidential election. If you want to talk about immoral, Donald Trump is the guy who rolled out the red carpet for Vladimir Putin just a few months ago. What did Donald Trump and the American people get out of that one? You want to talk about immoral? What about the crypto scandal, where he literally pardoned somebody that he claims he didn't know anything about it, a guy that put hundreds of millions of dollars into his crypto scheme, where his family has been enriched close to $1 billion just this year alone. And we know that Donald Trump's net worth has rose 4 to 5 times higher than it was before he ever became president of the United States. And you want to talk about morals? The guy who has kids with 3 different women, who's been unfaithful to every single woman he's ever been with. And you want to talk about morals? You fake Christian SOB, you.
Well,